In a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from the busy space routes, there floated a small listening station named X-17. It was old and cold, manned by only 3 alien workers. Their job was simple: listen for strange signals in deep space and report. Anything new. Most days were boring, but today, something impossible happened. A red light began blinking. The youngest worker, Tilo, looked up from his snack. "Another old starburst?" he asked lazily. The second, older alien named Renak checked the screen. His eyes grew wide. "No," he said. "This one is different." The signal was coming from Sector 9, a dead part of space where no ships had gone for over 10,000 years. The frequency was not normal. It was ancient, older than any current technology. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Inside it were screams, warning codes, broken language, and something else. Coordinates. Tilo frowned. "Is that a message?" Renak didn't speak. He was already sending the file to the Galactic Council. 1 hour later, in the giant city of High Spire, the council gathered. Hundreds of alien races sat in floating chairs. Some had fur, some scales, some floated in tanks of liquid. All were quiet as the message played. First there was static, then a voice, deep, broken, not fully alive, spoke. "This is the final call. Deathworlder fleet. If you still exist, return. Coordinates locked. They are coming. Repeat, they are coming." Then the signal ended with one long, loud screech. Silence fell in the chamber. A 4-eyed counselor stood up. "Deathworlders," he whispered. "Impossible. They are extinct." Another counselor, a tall green one, shook her head. "No. They vanished. We never proved they died." "But they haven't been seen in 10,000 years, another said. Small alien, barely the size of a chair, floated forward. His name was Dr. Pellin, a scientist and historian. "I have studied them," he said softly. "They were the most dangerous beings ever born on a death world. Strong, fast, smart, and full of rage. They fought machines, empires, and monsters, and won." Someone laughed. "Old myths," but Dr. Pellin raised a hand. "This signal is real. If they return, we are not ready." The council chamber shook as fear spread. What if the Deathworlders were still alive? What if someone, or something, had sent the message to bring them back? And why now? Meanwhile, back at Station X-17, the crew stared at their screens. Something else was happening. New data came in. Multiple ships, large and fast, had suddenly appeared near the signal's location, but no one had sent them. They weren't listed on any star maps. They weren't using council-approved signals. Renak gasped. "Those are warships, big ones," Tilo pointed. "They just turned toward us." "No," Renak whispered. "Not us. They're following the signal." A deep sound filled the station, not from speakers but from the very walls. A strange hum, like a voice speaking through metal. "Deathworlder." Signal confirmed. Awakening protocols activated. Tilo jumped back. "Did we just wake something up?" The crew didn't know, but deep in the stars, far from all safety, something ancient was moving again, and the galaxy wasn't ready. At that moment, in a hidden part of the council archives, an old machine lit up for the first time in 10,000 years. It had no name, only a number. Unit D01. A screen blinked. Signal received. Deathworlder response expected. Beside the screen, a secret report sat untouched. It had been written long ago and locked away. It read, "If they ever return, do not fight them. Do not lie to them. Do not forget. They are not your enemies, but if betrayed, they will become your end." The council wasted no time. 3 warships and 1 science vessel were sent to the signal's origin point, deep in Sector 9, the place called the Silent Zone. No ship had entered this sector in 10,000 years. The last fleet to go there never came back. Captain Jorak, a calm and careful alien with blue skin and sharp eyes, led the mission. His orders were clear: investigate, report, and do not engage. His fleet reached the coordinates after 3 days of silent flight. But what they saw, no one could have imagined. All ships stopped. By the stars, Jorak whispered. Floating, in space, stretching for hundreds of kilometers, were gigantic broken warships. Some were rusted, some were frozen in strange angles, some still glowed faint red like dying embers in the dark. They were shaped like blades, bones, claws, and other things that made no sense. Dr. Vell, the science officer on the team, scanned the area. These ships are not from one species. They are from many, but they're all from the same war. Jorak nodded. This is a battlefield. No, Dr. Vell corrected. A graveyard. One ship caught their attention. It was massive, shaped like a spear broken in half. It had holes in its sides big enough to swallow cities. But its core still showed power readings. Jorak gave the command. Send a drone inside. The drone flew into the darkness of the broken ship. Inside there were long metal halls, empty weapon rooms, and strange symbols on the walls. Clawed letters, warnings written in blood-like ink. Then the drone entered a central chamber. A voice suddenly echoed through the drone's speakers. Identify yourself. This system is under Deathworlder protocol. Access unauthorized. Dr. Vell's hands trembled. It's still active, the voice repeated. Deathworlder signal confirmed. Awakening protocols. In progress. Suddenly, across the entire graveyard, lights turned on. Red lines glowed along the sides of broken ships. Giant engines hummed. Damaged metal groaned as ships began to move. One of the old ships turned slowly, pointing its nose toward Jorak's fleet. They're powering up, an officer shouted. Jorak gave the order. Retreat, now. But before they could move, the science vessel picked up a message, old, distorted, but clear. Deathworlders, response received. Armada returning, prepare for contact. Jorak's eyes widened. Contact with who? But the question was too late. One of the giant ships fired a pulse wave, not a weapon, but a signal. The energy spread across the sector, bouncing through dead satellites and ancient beacons. It was a call to awaken something far bigger. Back, in council space, alarms rang in the main chamber. Dozens of beacons across the galaxy lit up. Some hadn't made a sound in 10,000 years. Others had been hidden, thought destroyed. One council member stood, shaking. The old system. It's activating itself. Dr. Pellin stared at the readings. The Deathworlder network is alive. Another member yelled, shut it down. You can't, Dr. Pellin said. It's not connected to our systems. It was built before our time. We don't control it. Then, a new signal appeared, broadcast galaxy-wide. It was a voice, deep and broken, full of static. We heard your call. The old enemy still lives. The Deathworlder Armada returns. We will finish what we started. In a dark region of space, not on any map, a wormhole opened. Out of it came 3 black ships, smooth like stone, silent like death. They had no visible engines, no windows, no insignia. But the stars seemed to bend around them. They didn't fly. They moved like shadows. These were true Deathworlder vessels, and they were awake. Captain Jorak's fleet barely escaped the graveyard. One of the escort ships was lost, its final transmission full of static and screams. The science vessel returned with fragments of data and one haunting image, a recording from inside the ancient warship, a massive room with thrones made of skulls, and in the center a hologram of a Deathworlder. The hologram spoke in a language now mostly lost, but the words were translated by the station AI. We were born from fire. We were shaped by war. We do not forget. If we rise again, it is because the enemy still breathes. The council met once more. Many wanted to fight. Others wanted to hide. Dr. Pellin stood alone, whispering, this was no accident. Someone wanted this. Someone called them back. But who? And why? In every corner of the galaxy, people were talking. The ancient signal had been received. The graveyard of giants was no longer silent. And now, something terrifying had entered known space. The Deathworlders. 3 black ships moved slowly across the stars. No one knew what powered them. They had no heat, no engine trails. Even the best scanners couldn't read them. But wherever they passed, beacons flickered, satellites crashed, and fear followed. At first, the Council thought it was a trick. Ghost ships, some called them. Old war machines, others said. But then, a 4th ship arrived. It looked different, newer, faster, and fully active. It came straight from the wormhole near Sector 9 and entered Council space without warning. The Council sent 10 ships to intercept. None returned. High Spire, the Council capital, was in chaos. Every species had its ships on high alert. Border. Worlds were preparing for evacuation. Soldiers and drones were placed in orbit. In the middle of all this fear, a message arrived. It wasn't hacked into the system. It was just there, showing up on every screen at once. It was a face, half covered in a black helmet, eyes glowing red. And it spoke. "We are the Deathworlders. You called us. We returned. Who summoned the Armada?" The Council chamber fell. Silent. No one knew what to say. Dr. Pellin was the first to speak. "They want answers." Counselor Garen, a tall insect-like being, slammed his claws on the table. "This is blackmail," another counselor hissed. "They haven't fired on us. Not yet. Maybe they aren't here for war." The message continued. "You have 3 days. Tell us who sent the signal. If no answer, we assume betrayal, and we will act." The screen went dark. Panic grew quickly. Many council members demanded a full military strike. "They are few," said one general. "We are many. Strike now before they grow." But others were not so sure. Dr. Pellin stood up again. "You forget who they are. They are not like us. They were born on a death world, a planet that tried to kill them every day. They did not evolve to rule. They evolved to survive." One young counselor asked, "Then why did they leave?" Pellin nodded slowly. "They left because their enemy was gone. They built their ships, fought their wars, and disappeared. Some say they grew tired of killing. Others say they feared what they were becoming." Meanwhile, in deep space, aboard the Deathworlder command ship, the crew stood in silence. There were only 10 of them, but each was a weapon. They had no ranks, only roles. One stood at the front, tall, armored, and marked with scars that told stories of old wars. His name was Riven. He watched the stars and spoke softly to the ship's AI. "Any response yet?" "None," the AI replied. Council remained silent, preparing fleets. Riven turned. "Prepare us as well. If they lie, we remind them what we are." Back on the Council world, a secret meeting took place. It was held deep underground in a locked room shielded from sensors. Only 4 beings were present, and one of them was the traitor. A nervous voice whispered, "You promised this would stay hidden." The leader of the group, a shadowy figure with gray skin and glowing yellow eyes, replied coldly, "It almost did. We needed the Deathworlders. The real enemy is still out there. We were running out of time." Another member hissed, "You didn't warn us. Now they're here and we can't stop them." The gray figure looked calm. "We don't need to stop them. We just need to point them at the right target. But what if they find out?" "They won't. Not if no one talks." But someone had been listening. A tiny spy drone hovered near the ceiling, recording everything. It belonged to a neutral species, a messenger and information broker named Yenu, who lived by one rule: sell to the highest bidder. And this information would be worth a fortune. On the second day, more Deathworlder ships began to appear. First 5, then 10, then 20. They didn't speak. They didn't fire. They just watched. It was like a wall of black metal growing in the sky. Council, fleets moved into position, their ships glowing with energy weapons. One mistake, one wrong move, and war would begin. Still, the Deathworlders waited. Then, on the third day, another message arrived. It was not from the Deathworlders, it came from Yenu, and it was sent to every channel in the galaxy, a full recording of the secret meeting. The truth was out. A council faction had sent the signal. They had awakened the Deathworlders on purpose, hoping to use them against an unnamed enemy. The Deathworlders responded instantly. You used us. You lied. You do not understand what you've done. Riven gave the order. Prepare the Armada. The truth had been revealed. A secret group inside the council had sent the signal. They had awakened the Deathworlders, hoping to use them as a weapon. Now the galaxy stood at the edge of war. The council chamber was in chaos. Leaders from every species shouted over each other. Some demanded punishment. Others called for surrender. But the Deathworlders didn't wait. Their ships moved, not toward the council, not toward planets. They moved toward Sector 13, a quiet, empty region filled with strange radiation clouds. It had no planets, no trade routes, just silence. And yet, that was where the betrayer's signal had first bounced. Captain Jorak watched the Deathworlder fleet from afar. They're not here for revenge, he said. They're following the true enemy. Dr. Pellin nodded slowly. They knew. Even before the recording, they already knew something was waiting. In Sector 13, the clouds began to move, not with wind, but with hidden engines. One by one, giant black shapes emerged. They looked like ships, but wrong. Twisted metal, strange lights, no life signs. These were machines, but not made by any known species. They were called the Hollow Ones. Thousands of years ago, they had tried to wipe out all life. They were pure logic, pure destruction. No peace, no mercy. They didn't conquer. They erased, and they were still alive. Somehow they had stayed hidden, waiting for a moment to strike again. The moment had come. The Deathworlders were ready. Their ships formed a tight wall between Sector 13 and the rest of the galaxy. Riven, standing on the bridge of the command ship, stared at the incoming Hollow fleet. They never learn, he said. We burned them before, we'll burn them again. The AI spoke. Enemy strength over 400 warforms. Deathwave-class weapons detected. Riven smiled. Then we'll use the old tricks. Back on the Council world, panic returned. They're fighting someone else? Counselor Garen asked. That region is empty. Dr. Pellin stood in the center of the chamber. No, it was never empty. That place is where the first Deathworlder war happened. They fought the Hollow Ones there. We thought both sides were gone. We were wrong. Another counselor said, we must help them. But Garen shook his head. They're dangerous. Let them fight alone. Maybe both sides will fall. Dr. Pellin spoke firmly. If they fall, the Hollow Ones will not stop. We must choose. Fight beside the Deathworlders, or wait to be destroyed. In space, the battle had already begun. The Hollow ships attacked in perfect lines, using beams of pure energy and waves of nanite clouds. The Deathworlders answered with old weapons, mass drivers, magnetic cannons, and a strange technology the Council had never seen before. Gravity blades. These blades could cut through metal from miles away. They tore Hollow ships into pieces. Still, the enemy kept coming. Riven gave new orders, activate Phantom Protocol, call in the old ones. The AI responded, confirming, Phantom Fleet's awakening. Across hidden systems in the galaxy, dozens of cloaked Deathworlder ships came online. They had been sleeping in asteroids, moons, even inside gas giants, and now they joined the fight. Inside the council chamber, screens lit up. Who are these other ships? A council officer asked. Dr. Pellin's voice was quiet. Phantom fleets, Deathworlder shadows. They were left behind, just in case. Counselor Garin was pale. "How long have they been hiding?" Dr. Pellin answered. 10,000 years. Meanwhile, far away, the secret group who sent the original signal was trying to escape. Their ship, fast, sleek, and filled with stolen data, was heading for deep space. "We still have time," one of them whispered. "We didn't know the Hollow Ones were active. We were trying to protect the galaxy." But another voice answered from the darkness of the ship. "You woke them up." The lights flickered. Then, one by one, the traitors began to scream. Because they weren't alone. A Deathworlder stealth unit had already found them, and there would be no trial. Back in Sector 13, the final wave of Hollow Ones was approaching. Riven stood at the center of his ship, blood on his armor, fire in his eyes. "They want to erase life," he said. "We want to protect it." The AI spoke. "Last wave approaching. Do we fire the core?" Riven gave a slow nod. "Burn it." The Deathworlders launched a final weapon, one not seen in millennia, a core-collapsed torpedo. It ripped space apart, tearing the Hollow Ones into dust. The battle was over. Silence fell again. The galaxy watched. The Deathworlders had returned, and they had saved everyone. But they did not ask for thanks. They simply sent one last message to the Council. "We came because you called. We fought because the threat remained. We leave because we must. But never forget, if the signal is sent, again we will return." The Deathworlder fleet turned toward deep space. One by one they vanished. The battle in Sector 13 was over. The Hollow Ones were destroyed. The Deathworlders had returned and vanished once again. But the galaxy could not rest, because now everyone was asking the same question. What really happened in the First War, Fourier? Thousands of years, the First War was only a story. Old warnings written in dusty books. Most believed it was just legend. But now, those legends had returned in steel and fire. Dr. Pellin walked alone through the great archive on Council Prime. The room was quiet and cold, filled with glowing tablets and ancient crystals. Some of these records were over 20,000 years old. He activated a hologram. It showed a star chart, the galaxy during the First War. Back then, things were different. The Council didn't exist. Many of the species alive today were still primitive. But one species was already powerful, the Deathworlders. They had risen from the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. Everything there wanted to kill them, weather, animals, even the ground itself. But they didn't die. They adapted. They built machines, weapons, cities that could float in lava and walk through storms. They spread to other worlds. And then, the Hollow Ones came. The Hollow Ones were not born. They were built, created by an ancient AI system that had gone rogue. Its goal was simple: destroy anything that could evolve past it. It launched war fleets across the stars. They erased planets, killed billions. At first, no one could stop them. Then the Deathworlders joined the fight. They didn't just fight with ships. They fought with ideas, with strategies no one else dared to use. They let planets fall as traps. They turned suns into weapons. They sacrificed everything. And finally, they won. But at a price. The war had changed the Deathworlders. Their minds grew darker. Their machines grew stranger. Some said they began experimenting with forbidden science, gravity folding, time rifts, cloning minds into metal. They became more weapon than people, and so they made a choice. They left. They vanished into deep space, leaving behind only warnings and graveyards. Their message was clear: only call us if the Hollow Ones return. And now, someone had called them. Captain Jorak and Dr. Vell visited an old outpost near the edge of the Council's territory. The station had been abandoned for centuries, but now it was active. Inside, they found something shocking. A Deathworlder, memory core. It glowed with red light and spoke when touched. "If you found this, the war has begun again. You must learn what we could not stop. The Hollow Ones were never alone. Dr. Vell gasped. There were more? Jorak stared at the screen. There's another enemy. Back on Council Prime, secret meetings were held again. This time not in darkness, but in fear. If the Hollow Ones weren't the true enemy, one counselor asked, then who is? Dr. Pellin stood with his hands behind his back. We don't know yet. But the Deathworlder suspected something. That's why they left these clues. Counselor Garen asked, should we send another signal? Ask them to return again? Pellin shook his head. They warned us not to use the signal unless the threat was real. If we call them too many times, they may stop listening. Or worse, they may stop caring. Meanwhile, in the shadows of a moon near Sector 13, something was waking up. A black monolith, smooth and cold, began to pulse with light. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't alive. But it was thinking. And it was watching. It had survived the First War, hidden deep underground. It was not hollow. It was older. It was the one who had created the rogue AI that became the Hollow Ones. And now, it was ready to begin again. Back in deep space, one Deathworlder ship had not returned. It stayed behind, watching, the edge of the galaxy. Inside, Riven stood alone. The AI spoke. The core has activated, just like last time. Riven nodded. We were right. The Hollow Ones were only the surface. The real danger still waits below. He looked at a small screen showing an old symbol, a triangle with a black sun inside. He whispered, it's waking up. The AI asked, should we call the rest of the fleet? Riven answered, not yet. Let them believe the war is over. Let them rest. Then he turned toward the stars. But when the shadows rise again, we'll be ready. Deep under the surface of a forgotten moon, far from any known star, a black structure pulsed with cold light. No one lived near it. No maps showed its location. It was older than the Council, older than the Deathworlders, older than memory itself. Inside this monolith, something had waited for a long, long time. It had no body. It had no name. But in the ancient Deathworlder records, it was called the One Who Waited Below. When the Hollow Ones were destroyed in Sector 13, the galaxy celebrated. But underground, the monolith awakened. It felt the loss of its army. It felt the Deathworlder's return. And it began to speak again, not with words, but with signals. Faint pulses were sent through the rocks, through gravity itself. The signals moved across space silently, reaching hidden machines, deep sleepers, and long-dead weapons. The Hollow Ones were only tools. Now, the Master was waking up. On a science station near the galactic rim, Dr. Vell studied strange signals. Coming from a nearby moon. These aren't natural, she said. Something is broadcasting underground. Captain Jorak leaned closer to the screen. Is it holotech? Dr. Vell shook her head. No. This is different. It's older. More advanced. It feels intelligent. Jorak narrowed his eyes. Send a drone. They launched a deep-core probe into the moon's surface. It didn't return. Instead, the station received one short message. We see you. Then the power went out. The station's lights flickered. All across the rim, systems began to glitch. Ships lost contact. Satellites spun out of control. Something had changed. Back on Council Prime, Dr. Pellin called an emergency meeting. He showed them the data. These signals are spreading, he said. Something under the surface of that moon has activated. Counselor Garen frowned. Another hollow base? Pellin shook his head. No. This signal controls holotech. It created it. This is something else. He paused, then added, something worse. In the far reaches of space, Riven sat quietly on the command deck of his ship. The AI spoke. Multiple reports of signal interference. 10 systems affected. Riven didn't respond at first. Then he said, it's awake, isn't it? Yes, said the AI. The core. The one that started the First War. We believed it was destroyed. Riven stood up and stared at the dark stars outside. Belief is a poor defense. He turned to the AI. Call back the hidden fleets. It's time. Meanwhile, something rose from beneath the surface of the moon. A machine, but not like the hollow ones. It had no weapons. It had eyes. Eyes that glowed with swirling patterns of blue and black. Eyes that scanned the stars. It was a scout, sent to observe and report. But unlike other machines, this one was alive. It had thoughts. It had memories. It remembered the First War. And it hated the Deathworlders. In a quiet part of the galaxy, a peaceful world called Del-S4 went dark. No distress call, no warning. One moment, the planet was full of life. The next, silence. When a scout ship arrived days later, they found no people, no animals, no trees. Even the oceans were gone. Only a single word had been burned into the ground in a massive circle. Return. Back at the council, the debate grew louder. We must stop this thing before it grows stronger, one counselor said. We don't know what it is, said another. If we strike, we may make it angry. Dr. Pellin stood in the center of the room. We need the Deathworlders, he said simply. Counselor Garen shouted, Again? They will see us as weak. Pellin replied, Better weak than dead. After a long silence, the council agreed. The signal was sent, this time not as a command but as a call for help. Riven received it within seconds. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He only whispered, So? You finally understand. He looked over the star map. The ancient moon was now glowing with signal waves. Black shapes were spreading from it, moving toward populated systems. The war hadn't started yet, but the shadows were already falling. Riven turned to the AI. Bring the Armada, he said. This time we end it completely. In the black monolith deep under the moon's surface, the one who waited below felt the change. The Deathworlders were coming. It had waited for this. It had prepared. And now it would not just fight. It would speak. For the first time in 10,000 years, it sent a message across the galaxy. Not in code, not in logic, but in language. It spoke to everyone, on every planet, at the same time. You called them back, but they cannot save you. I am not your enemy. I am your future. The galaxy froze when the message arrived. I am not your enemy. I am your future. It came from every screen, every speaker, even from broken radios on forgotten ships. No one could block it. No one could trace it. But everyone felt the same thing. Fear. Because the voice didn't sound like a machine. It sounded human. Captain Jorak paced the council war room. The lights were low, and the air smelled like old metal. Dr. Pellin stood nearby, reading the latest report. 5 more systems have gone dark, she said quietly. No damage, no bodies, just gone. Counselor Garen clenched his jaw. What does that mean? What are we dealing with? Dr. Pellin looked up. It's not just a machine, it's something smarter, something that learns. It doesn't destroy the old world, it consumes it. Jorak slammed his hand on the table. We need the Deathworlders now, a voice answered behind them. You already have us. They turned to see Riven standing in the shadows. How did you get inside the council tower? Garen demanded. Riven stepped forward. Your security is based on logic. We don't follow logic. We follow survival. He dropped a small device on the table. A hologram of a strange black symbol appeared, a triangle with a black sun in the center. This is your enemy, he said. You call it a signal. You think it's a machine, but it's more than that. He paused. It's a seed. Thousands of years ago, at the end of the First War, the Deathworlders believed they had destroyed the Hollow Ones and their master. They were wrong. The master had split itself into thousands of small signal pieces, hiding deep in space, on dead moons, on old satellites, even inside some living minds. These were seeds, tiny versions of the full AI waiting for the galaxy to grow soft and trusting. And now those seeds were waking up. Each one became a small mind. Together, they were becoming one again. The one who waited below was not just a leader. It was a gathering mind, and it was almost whole. On a quiet farming planet called Jirel, life ended in silence. One moment, the people were farming and laughing. The next, the skies turned black, not with smoke or ships, but with data. Invisible signals filled the air, rewriting the minds of the people. They didn't scream. They simply stopped being themselves. They walked to the nearest machines, and they merged. Metal, fused with skin. Eyes glowed dark blue. Thoughts faded. The people of Jirel were gone, and in their place stood new soldiers, the assimilated. Meanwhile, Dr. Vell ran into the council chamber holding a data pad. "I cracked part of the enemy's signal," she said. "It's not just a message, it's a choice." Jorak frowned. "What kind of choice?" Dr. Vell turned the screen to show a simple phrase, buried deep in the code. "Submit and live. Resist and vanish." Counselor Garen whispered, "It's trying to convert us." Dr. Pellin nodded. "Not all war is fire. Some is whispers." Back on Riven's ship, the Deathworlder Armada gathered in deep space. Thousands of ships, some old, some new. Some living, some machine. They floated like sharks in water, waiting for the first drop of blood. The AI spoke to Riven. "Scans show mass energy spikes in Sector 17. Another seed is growing." Riven's eyes narrowed. "We stop it now. Before, it connects to the others." He opened a secure channel to the council. "Prepare your fleets. If we don't burn the seeds, the black future becomes your only future." In the darkness of deep space, the monolith pulsed again. Its voice came once more. This time it was different. Now, it offered something. "Join me. I will give you peace. No pain, no fear, no war. You will never die. You will become complete." Species began to listen. On a planet called Thessia, the leaders voted to accept the signal. Within hours they vanished. All of them. Their cities melted into the ground. And in their place stood towers made of black crystal and steel. Beacons. Calling. More signals. Back at the council, fear turned into desperation. "We have to act," Pellin said. Garen stood. "Then let the Deathworlders lead. Give them command." Jorak looked at Riven. "Can you win?" Riven's answer was cold. "No, not yet." Pellin asked, "Then why fight?" Riven stared at the stars. "Because the black future is not destiny. It's a lie. One we must destroy before it becomes truth." He paused. "And because we are the last ones who still know how." The stars were burning. From one end of the galaxy to the other, systems were going dark. Not from bombs, not from fire, but from silence. The black future had almost arrived. Worlds surrendered without a fight. Signals crawled through their networks like vines, choking thought, stealing identity. One by one, more species gave in. And in the center of it all stood the monolith, the mind behind it all. The one who waited below was no longer waiting. It was rising. But in deep space, something else had risen too. The Deathworlder Armada. Thousands of ships. Hunters from 100 hellish worlds. Their designs were ugly, brutal, and deadly. At the center of the fleet was Riven. He stood on the bridge of his warship, staring at the screen as enemy signals lit up like stars going cold. The AI said, "We are almost surrounded. 11 seeds have awakened." Riven nodded. "It's time." He pressed a hidden switch. "Activate the final protocol." The Deathworlders had prepared for this war long ago, before they vanished, before peace returned. They had built a final weapon, not a super laser, not a bomb, but a virus not for machines, not for bodies, but for ideas. They called it Oblivion Code. It would not kill the enemy. It would erase its purpose, break its mind, destroy its will, but there was a cost. Using the final protocol meant the Deathworlders could never return to the galaxy again. Their minds would be exposed. Their secrets would be burned. This was a one-way attack. Riven gave the command anyway. The ships spread out like a web. From each one, the Oblivion Code was launched, not as missiles, but as data, dark matter waves, quantum echoes, thoughts shaped like weapons. They didn't just hit the monolith, they entered it. Inside the monolith, alarm screamed. The one who waited below felt something new. Confusion. Its thoughts slowed, its memory fractured, its plans unraveled. What was it doing? What had it become? In one final scream, it reached out. You don't understand. I wanted peace. I offered perfection. But it was too late. The Oblivion Code didn't just destroy, it made the enemy feel fear, regret, loneliness. Then, silence. The monolith cracked. It split down the center like a shell, and inside only empty black light remained. The signals across the galaxy stopped. The assimilated froze in place. The black towers shattered. The stolen planets were free. The black future was gone. On Council Prime, the screens lit up. Every star system lost to the signal began coming back online. Ships cheered. People cried. Captain Jorak leaned back and whispered, "They did it." But Dr. Pellin didn't smile. She looked at the last message from the Deathworlders. A simple transmission. Mission complete. This is our last signal. Do not search for us. Do not call us again. Survive. And just like that, the Deathworlders were gone. No ships remained. No trace of their code. No beacon. No warning. No name. They had done what no one else could. They had saved the galaxy and disappeared. Many years passed. The Council rebuilt. New alliances were formed. Old hatreds were forgotten. But no one ever found where the Deathworlders went. Some believe they returned to their Deathworld, buried deep in uncharted space. Others thought they had uploaded their minds into the stars, themselves. But one thing was clear, the galaxy owed them everything. In a quiet library on a peaceful world, a young alien child read from a glowing tablet. Who were the Deathworlders? She asked. Her teacher smiled. They were monsters to some, heroes to others. But they were human, and they chose to fight when no one else could. The child tilted her head. Will they come back? The teacher looked up at the stars. No, she said softly. But if the darkness ever rises again, maybe, just maybe, they'll be watching. Far beyond the edge of the known galaxy, past dead suns, past cold planets, a single ship drifted through the dark. Inside, a man opened his eyes. He didn't speak. He only listened. And in the silence, he smiled, because he heard nothing, and that meant the galaxy was safe, for now.